So there's a flawed teaching out there, which is that you are already the self. This is already one. Therefore, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to practice. You don't need to do anything because you're already one. And the danger with that is that if you take the woman with the necklace analogy, you just leave her frantically searching for the necklace. You say, oh, well, it's all oneness already. This is just the manifestation of oneness, and suffering is just a manifestation of the oneness, and the seeking is just a manifestation of the oneness. And this person is left there. You need to go back into the home and see what you are, know yourself. And then you can kind of say, yes, all is one, because you've truly seen for yourself. But until then, it's just a concept. And again, I just want to reinforce the idea that there's nothing you need to do, because anything, and some people say anything you do is just perpetuating the ego. This is a belief. There is something you can do that will end the ego. You can be very clear about that. And it's, ironically, it's not a doing, it's a being, which is not a doing. But when people say there's nothing you can do, what often happens, they just carry on doing. What you have to do is stop doing and turn within and abide as being. And initially, that's something you start doing. And then it becomes being. It does. There's a few verses that Michael Langford wrote in The Most Direct Means to Eternal Bliss, towards the end, where he emphasizes this. So on my version, it's on page 156. What chapter is it on? It's chapter 14, which is called Experiences, the Journey, and the Final Goal. And it's verse number 84. I like the numbered version. There are two versions, there are two main versions of this text. One is numbered, got numbered paragraphs, and one hasn't got numbered paragraphs. I like the numbered one. I think a lot of people didn't like the numbered one, and so he got rid of the numbers in a subsequent edition. This is the 6th edition I've got here, from 2008. This is chapter 14, verse 84, or point 84. Because the true self is eternally perfect, awareness, love, bliss, and eternally free of all suffering, some people think there is no need for spiritual practice. Yes. Such a notion is an ego preservation strategy. Yes. Such a notion is an ego preservation strategy. I'll read that again. Because the true self is eternally perfect, awareness, love, bliss, and eternally free of all suffering, some people think there is no need for spiritual practice. Such a notion is an ego preservation strategy. The idea is you're the self already, everything's already the self, so you don't need to do anything. Anything you do is reinforcing the idea that you are limited. And Michael Langford correctly points out this is an ego preservation strategy. The purpose of practice, he goes on to say, the purpose of practice is not to gain the true self. The purpose of practice is to remove the illusion of a body, a world, suffering, etc., so that what remains is only the eternal experience of the true self. This is correct. Ramana gives the same teaching in the first few lines or paragraphs of Who Am I? Remember, if you read Who Am I, you'll see that same teaching given in the first few paragraphs of Who Am I? The purpose is not to gain the self, but to remove ignorance, remove the illusion of duality. Next verse, 85. In other words, those who have let the ego trick them into thinking there is no need for spiritual practice, because the true self is eternally free of suffering, etc., are still having the experience of suffering, a body, a world, etc. Thus, their experience is not consistent with their concept that the true self is eternally free of suffering and perfectly blissful. This is an example of intellectual spirituality. This is an example of people confusing a journey through concepts, ideas, beliefs, and opinions with an authentic spiritual journey. Practice leads to the direct experience of infinite eternal awareness, love, bliss. And that's what I would call the self. What he's calling infinite eternal awareness, love, bliss. Next verse, 86. A journey through, is summarizing now what he's just said. A journey through spiritual concepts, ideas, beliefs, teachings, and opinions is a journey through illusion. So just rattling off in your head, all is one, and just leaving it there is a form of illusion, and it's a ego preservation strategy. And many people do this. This is why he's pointing it out. The next verse, practice is what is essential. Practice is what is essential. It must not be a spiritual practice that is created by the ego for the purpose of preserving the ego. Wow, that's a very good point as well. The idea here is that only the guru's teaching can set us free. Remember, the guru's teaching is like a treasure map, or it's like the recipe given by the master chef. You know, if you follow the recipe from the person who doesn't know how to cook, you'll end up with a mess. If you follow the treasure map written by someone who doesn't know where the treasure is, you won't find the treasure. It's that simple. You know, it's the liberated sage who can lead us out of this. We must follow the guidance given to us by the one who has actually realized, not by the one who has not realized. So this is the value of Rama's teachings and the scriptures. They testify to the true way that works. Verse 88, with the awareness watching awareness method, which is basically self-inquiry. With the awareness watching awareness method, the practice is the progress. The habit has been developed of always looking outward towards the seen, what I would call objects, towards the seen. The awareness watching awareness method reverses this. Every time a thought arises or the tendency to look outward, the attention is taken away from the thought and turned towards the seer, what I would call the subject itself. So there you go. Some lovely points put across there in that text, in that book, which is full of lots of gems.